Hi there, it's Ed Moses, and welcome back to Project Mindset. You know, when I created Project Mindset, the whole idea was to find a better way of doing things. And with every video that I create for you, I am actually trying to help process those type of ideals to you so that you can see that there is a better way of doing just about anything that you can think of. But today, what I've done is a book review. I had just finished reading a book by Paul Pearsall. He's a Ph.D. and he wrote this book called The Heart's Code. And I actually found out about this book after watching some videos by, if you've heard of Daryl Anka, he actually channels a extraterrestrial called Bashar. I know a lot of people probably think that sounds a little crazy or out of this world. Well, maybe it is. But when I was listening to that video, he had suggested this book as a good read to help understand exactly how the heart does function with the body. And when I heard that, I thought, well, you know, I'm going to go and get a copy of that book. The book is not a newer book now. I think it's from like 97 or 98, but it's still, as far as I'm concerned, the research that he's done, it's 98. The research that he has done in this book still holds true today. So essentially, what we've got here, we've got the heart versus the brain or the mind. And you know, a lot of people, and Paul, when he was doing this research, he had a lot of controversial issues because a lot of doctors do not want to agree that the heart has memory, that the heart can actually be very similar to the use of a brain or the mind. And because of his research with heart transplant patients, he did interview a lot of them, and he learned a lot of the issues that they go through after a transplant. And what was very interesting about his research was that a majority of the heart transplant patients were receiving memories of the donor, and you know, things that they would never have known about, like odd things like, you know, foods that they like, places that they've gone, you know, just various things of that nature, cars that they like, you know, and music that they listen to. So what was happening was these people, after their heart operations, they were actually starting to take on the donor's personality in some way, which, you know, after further research with what Mr. Pearsall or Dr. Pearsall had encountered was that, you know, cellular memory does play a large role in what the heart does, you know, in that function. So it is believed that the cellular memory that is in the heart actually carries over into the recipient, and that is a lot of the reasons why the recipient starts to have some of these feelings and some of these interests that the donor had in their lifetime. So, you know, when you think about it, you're actually walking around with somebody else's heart in your body. But if you take this whole philosophy or this whole psychology of how the heart has memory, and bring it home to perhaps, you know, like people like you and me that have not had a transplant, and realize that your heart right now does have memory, and it does function in the sense of a non-ego type of mind. I know on a doctor's level, or what you want to call an educational level, information that's put in a book, this is probably considered kind of crazy or absurd, and maybe that's true, but you know, I believe there's a lot of things that can't be put on paper and understood. There's a lot of things that you're just not going to understand it. And I think that goes along with the doctors, because, with research, you have to have physical evidence in order for something to be considered accurate and good enough to put in a book to carry over into, teaching people, at that level so that they can understand the function of something. And over the years, the heart has been nothing more, what they considered nothing more than a pump, a huge pump that just, shoves blood and life through the whole body. And, with his research, it brought to light that, hey, the heart is actually more than just that. The heart is actually a mind with compassion. And, with our, when it comes to our mind itself, our mind is an egotistic way of thinking. Our brain wants to be in control of everything, and therefore it wants to take all the things that it actually witnesses or sees, because that's all it can actually function on and think on, is things that it has already seen or read, or that physically happen. But it can't understand things that are not within that realm, if that makes sense. So what's happened here is, through his study, he's finding that there's a karmic balance that we really need to take more focus on, that would actually help in our own health. And part of that is, by taking some of that mind energy that all the energy that you focus on the mind, and pulling that away from the mind, and trying to ignore that voice that's in your head, and start pulling it and start allowing your heart to be more of a thought process for you, and creating a more balanced life. Because if the heart thinks with compassion and the mind is egotistic, it doesn't have the compassion, it just wants to control, right? So if you start to think with the actual heart, no longer are you trying to control, you're actually in a compassionate state, a caring state, and that is a more healthy state to be in. Anytime you're in happiness, laughter, joy, you're in a better state to be in. And through further study, Dr. Pearsall was finding that a lot of diseases, such as cancer and various other diseases, are caused because of it's a confusion within the cellular structure of an area of the body. And what happens through that confusion of the cellular structure, it creates the cancer cells. And those cancer cells are just an unbalance of the energy within the system of the body. And what he was learning through studying, because he was a cancer patient, he had cancer at one point, and he was pretty sick, and they thought he would die. And what he realized was, through the heart, he was able to actually capture the energy from loved ones' hearts, and that actually helped to heal him on a whole over time. It actually helped to heal him, because it actually helped to create that karmic balance within his system again. And he became healthy, and I don't know if he's alive now. I don't know. This book is from '98. I didn't research his life today, but he did come back to being a healthy physician again. And so it just, it's an interesting research when you take a look at the big picture. And one of the things that he had mentioned was, if you can actually start to balance your life in a more meaningful way, even with like the types of food you eat, the way you think, and etc., that you can actually become a healthier person in all aspects of life. And if more people could think on that balanced level, they say 99% of disease would be cured even before it even happens. So, but anyway, this book, I thought it was a very, very good read. There's some things that maybe he wouldn't agree with me on a spiritual level, because I was kind of pulling out some stuff that he had mentioned that didn't seem real kosher with what I felt on a spiritual level, because what I'm finding, you know, when you think about how the heart functions, and if you've ever had these moments where something happens and you're with a group of people and you all feel your heart drop at the same time for the same reason at the same event, you start to realize that there is some kind of communication. Even when you see somebody that you haven't seen for a long time, that feeling doesn't come from your head, you feel it here. You feel it in your heart. So there is some kind of a spiritual feeling that is brought through the communication from a heart to a heart. And I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. And, you know, so on a spiritual level, it kind of helped me to understand more on, you know, like how we can manifest things through the energy that we have. Because if you consider what the heart has on an energetic level, it actually is more electro, or what he called L energy, prone than what the brain is. There's a lot more energy in the heart than there is in the brain. And because of that, that energy, you know, it does travel, and it changes cellular structures. It can change the cellular structure of water. It's amazing. So, but, you know, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, so I don't want to talk out of place. But what I did learn from this book was, I thought it was quite an amazing book, and I would definitely say it's definitely go and read this book. It's worth reading. It's not real long. It's long enough. There's a lot of big words in it because he is a doctor, and it makes things interesting. But, you know, there's also a glossary in the back, so you could actually go back and see, you know, if what a word means if you don't quite understand it. So anyway, yeah, I do recommend this book. It's an awesome book. It's a good read, and go out and buy it. So, but anyway, I am Ed Moses with Project Mindset, and, you know, as I said before, I created Project Mindset because I want to inspire people for a better way of living. And how you use this inspiration through Project Mindset is really up to you. But all I really know is this is just a better way. So I thank you again. We will talk to you in the next video. Bye now.